All right, welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. We continue talking football. Now, UEFA Champions League football returns on Tuesday with 9 exciting fixtures to kick off match day 4. Well, here's a look now at the full schedule of the matches. All right, so we have PSV Eindhoven up against Girona. Slovan Bratislava at home to Dinamo Zagreb. Bologna, they play Monaco. Borussia Dortmund play Sturm Graz. Celtic, they'll be seeing RB Leipzig. Lille up against Juventus. Liverpool versus Bayer Leverkusen. Real Madrid, they play AC Milan. And Sporting will be suiting up against Manchester City. All right, well, Wanji Arango is still with us to preview Tuesday's action. But before we welcome him, let's take a look at the standings. The top 8 teams will move directly into the round of 16 as the top surprise leaders, Aston Villa. Let's take a look. So as I said, at the top we have Aston Villa there. Liverpool in second position, same number of points as Aston Villa. Manchester City in third on 7 points. Monaco round out the top 4, then Brest in fifth position on 7 points. Bayer Leverkusen, Inter Milan and Sporting. Then, of course, trying for the playoff places right now, Arsenal on 7 points, Barcelona in 10th position, Dortmund in 11th, Real Madrid in 12th, and we'll be hoping that they can fix that result. Can I see lower down the table now? All right, again, fighting for those playoff spots would be Atalanta in 17, Stuttgart, PSG, Celtic, Sparta. We have Dinamo Zagreb, Bayern Munich, and La Liga's Girona. All right, Juan, let's start with a quick discussion around the standings. We know it's still early days, but what are your thoughts on how it's looking so far and the new standings? Because I'm still one trying to get accustomed to the new standings every time I come on the show.
Yeah, me too. It's like, okay, and what does it mean? What does it mean? And so what? Okay, big deal. When does it start getting good? When does it start getting interesting? And so far, it's okay, all right. And I mean, it's the thing you constantly say about this new format is that, because when will it start getting like really exciting? When is it going to start? When everything is really going to be online? Maybe round 6 and 7, maybe 8. But I mean, to me, if you ask me that's the answer I'm going to give you right now. And okay, so fine. You have 7 teams with 7 points. Big deal. That's the sensation I get. I mean, it's pretty simple. Maybe long-winded, but it is simple.
Yeah. And what about Aston Villa at the top of the table, sharing the same number of points as Liverpool?
Big test that they're going to have away from home. Because the two most difficult matches that they've had them in their own backyard, and they passed the test with flying colors. Now, of course, this round they end up going away from home, and they have to go over to Belgium to see. I think they should be able to perform well, although they're coming off a major struggle this weekend, and maybe they'll come out a little bit more aggressive than we're accustomed to seeing them, especially in a match against Club Brugge. So it should be a good result for Unai Emery's men. I don't see them struggling in terms of, well, all of a sudden they're out of the playoff or out of that top 24 picture. But it's a team that will come back from a very, very underwhelming performance that they had this weekend.
Yeah, and Real Madrid, that is one of the team, once I hear Champions League, I'm afraid of them, right? It's just because this competition, I think, belongs to them, and the Champions League gods love Real Madrid. I'm a bit surprised, though, but then again, the table looks very tricky. But Real Madrid, are you surprised that they're in 12th position so far?
Like I said, I mean, Real Madrid, they're in 12 points. But
6 points, 12th position.
Yes, okay, fine. 6 points, 12th position. Okay, but Real Madrid don't get into it until the group stage is done and you start looking at them. And, okay, when you have to face them in a home and away with eliminations at stake, well, that ends up being a different animal. That ends up being a very different set of, because it could come in as the worst team in the Champions League. And if they have at least one breath of life, you better be fearing for them. You're absolutely right. So again, for me, for Real Madrid, jury's still out. We'll have to wait and see until later.
Yeah, the most exciting match to talk about today, I'll have to say, will be the Manchester City Sporting match. Just remember, Ruben Amorim, this is his last fixture with Sporting our leaders as it comes to Portuguese competition. So, I mean, to me, I'm thinking, will Ruben Amorim be looking at my team, Manchester City, because he does have a Manchester derby to deal with in December? So I'm thinking along those lines. I'm already welcoming him to the Premier League as Manchester United boss. But what are you thinking about City versus Sporting? How will that one line up? It's a bit trickier.
Well, he already told me he was not going to speak in English until he got to England. So that's the first thing that's going to be. I mean, there was an English journalist say, "Hey, can you speak a couple of words in English?" He said, "No." But like, you'll have a chance later on when in a couple of days when he goes to England, he'll start speaking in English. So he already kind of started rubbing some of the English media the wrong way.
Yeah.
And he hasn't stepped foot in English on English soil just yet. But it's not only just Ruben Amorim. You start looking at Gyökeres, the leading goal scorer for Sporting. He's also being looked at by City. So of all the teams, as a possible option to help just in case Erling Haaland is there. Barcelona's already talked about maybe kind of throwing an offer in for the Swedish international, seeing what ends up happening there. So there's a lot of people that want to showcase their talents on that Sporting Lisbon side against a City, and it's more of this encounter that's going to offer a lot more in terms of more bossity, in terms of the soap opera side of the game, instead of maybe the footballing end, if you want to look at it from that perspective, because knowing how City are, especially after losing at the weekend and the way they lost at the weekend, they're another team that'll be coming in with a bit of blood in their eye and seeing if they can rewrite or be able to right that ship again.
Yeah, I think we should switch the roles now, Juan, though. You need to ask Mariah about her nerves, because Man City are coming off back-to-back losses, which is a very unfamiliar position for her and her team. So maybe you should ask her, how nervous is she going into this fixture?
Well, I will ask you, Mariah, how do you feel about City having lost 2 games in a row when it hasn't really happened ever in the history
Exactly.
of man?
I am a bit nervous, I have to say. This is not what City has looked like for quite some time, one, and it's something that Manchester City fans are not accustomed to. But I will say that it has a lot to do with the injury. Rodri, do you realize that he'll be out for the rest of the season because of that injury? John Stones, Jack Grealish. So as much as I feel nervous, I'm not worried about the result against Sporting, but I do know that Pep Guardiola is going to find ways to manipulate the pieces won. And I mean, you should know better and not take bait by Lance and his Manchester United self.
Well, you make it sound like City are still playing in the 3rd division.
No, of course not. But you see, let me tell you something. When you are accustomed to excellence, people judge you by that sort of excellence. They don't think about the rest of the team. They think about the last time you played. So I understand why every time City loses a match, Lance and his Manchester United self comes for me.
But I don't actually. I don't, because I like Manchester City.
So what was that about just now? That's done.
I'm just putting some pressure on you and using Juan to do it. But I like Man City. You know that I like Manchester City. So you shouldn't say that.
Mariah made them sound like they're a 3rd division team. I mean, I mean, that's basic. I mean, it's just, oh, we have 2 injuries. Oh, no, City's doomed forever. Oh, my God. We're such, a poor little city.
Yeah, but that's why I'm saying, because we're so used to them performing excellently, it's really difficult to see them having 2 losses. It's as if, what's really happening.
You know what would be more difficult?
Why?
3.
Yeah, but that won't happen. That would not happen. But seeing that you're making a lot of fun, let's talk about the team now. Inter Milan versus Arsenal. They'll be in a battle as well. Arsenal have suffered a lot of injuries as well, similar to City. They are one of the teams that we think can challenge City for the title. How will that one stack up?
You better look up, because it looks like Arsenal's falling out of the sky right now compared to City. I mean, it's ironically, it's crazy as it sounds. It's going to be the first match of the post-Edu Gaspar era. So, after the sacking / resignation of Edu Gaspar, you start to see Arsenal beginning to, lose their wheels, lose their composure. And now you start thinking, well, who's going to be that 3rd team? Maybe it's going to be Chelsea. Maybe it's going to be Aston Villa. Maybe Spurs? I don't know. It ends up being one of those situations where a team that was so solid, a team that maybe everyone was saying, what was it, Mariah? We're in November. In September, early September, this is the team that's going to finally overthrow City from their from their throne. All of a sudden, it's a team that just can't find which way is up, and it is very, very preoccupying. And maybe through Champions League, which historically hasn't been the way for them, it can be the way for them to kind of right the ship, I guess.
Yeah, Liverpool I'm going to ask you about in a moment, Juan, because they're on top of their game at the moment. But just quickly, a look at PSG and Bayern Munich, two teams who are top of their domestic leagues at the moment, but struggling in the UCL with only one win in their 3 games so far. I think PSG are about 19th and Bayern Munich are about 23rd in the standings. How worrying are those stats for these European giants?
It will be worrying for the one that loses, that for sure, because at this point, I mean, it's basically what Mariah and I were talking about just a little while ago about this format. You know, when is it going to get interesting? Well, I guess one thing that we'd have to amend is if you're the team that's losing, do things get interesting? And when I mean interesting, I mean in a good manner, because for these two teams, if they lose and all of a sudden you see teams leapfrogging them quickly, it's going to be a preoccupying situation. Now, that being said, these two teams over the last 5 years have established the, for lack of a better term, pedigree to be able to, overcome adverse moments and be able to advance. I see more of a Bayern success in this time around, although playing away is going to be a bit of a different situation here. But I still see Bayern being able to overcome things.
Yeah. All right. Liverpool will be up against the German club Leverkusen, who are coming off a big season last year. Liverpool on top of their game, top of the EPL at the moment, and their fans are getting excited about the season.
Yeah, they are. And second of all, they're facing one of their old one of their old midfielders in Xabi Alonso. I mean, keep in mind, at one point, they were speculating Xabi Alonso was going to replace Jurgen Klopp. And what a better coach to get than a former Liverpool player. But maybe this isn't the Bayer Leverkusen of last year that just seemed unbeatable. That was in terms of domestic play, unbeatable. It ends up being a team that kind of is showing the rigors of having to play Champions League and defend the Bundesliga title against a retooled Bayern Munich. So you have all that. It was a team that was going to come down eventually in terms of their form. Is that necessarily a bad thing? No. I mean, they're still competitive. They're still a very good team. They just couldn't keep the same form that they had last year into this year again. And not only that, we're talking about arguably maybe the second best team in Europe right now in Liverpool. Yeah. So with Arne Slot, you see a much different team. You see a team that this weekend, it was shown that Liverpool is capable of, in very adverse moments, all they need is just one little crease, one little lapse for them to turn things around and beat a team like Brighton. So let's keep that in mind when we're talking about Liverpool throughout this season and the down moments that they've had, but they've been very few and far between. And the moments where you think they're about to get knocked out, that's the time that they come back with a puncher's punch, if you want to look at it from that perspective, and be able to knock you out. Yeah,
well, we're pretty much out of time, but I just want to get a quick comment from you from Real Madrid, who are up against AC Milan, who Carlo Ancelotti played for and coached as well.
Yeah, it's that story. Obviously, Madrid not playing this weekend because of the floods in
so they should be
region.
fresh.
They should be fresher. And Milan coming off a loss as well is also going to be something to be looking at in the next couple of rounds too.
Yeah.
All right, Juan. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us. You know, we always appreciate and enjoy your input, and we'll talk again really soon.
Yeah, I always like making fun of you. I mean, Lance can send me the check whenever he needs to. We already planned that out earlier.
That's why you come on the show, to make fun of me. You need to try harder, Juan.
I gotta try and keep you real, okay?
My viewers will not be very pleased about this. They might actually be upset with you. So thank you so much. Goodbye.
Take care, bye.
Juan Giarango there, of course, our football analyst. Lance, you're not being a great co-host today. Break time.